So, I mean, the need for smart buildings is quite clear at this point in time, right? The one thing that comes through quite strongly is there's a whole movement towards healthier working environments for people, right? So that means when occupants come into a building, they need to have really good air quality, they need to be kept cool, and they need to be comfortable. And what we're finding from the research is that, people are actually using the environment of the building as a criteria to choose where they're starting to work. So by making a building smarter, we enable businesses to enhance the experience of occupants, and that really is a positive for them, right? So that's the one reason why people need smarter buildings. The other reason is to really gain efficiencies. So one is efficiencies in terms of the way it operates. So, that would mean the services surrounding the building, for example, cleaning services, maintenance services. By making your building smarter or connecting it using IoT, if you want to term that as a smart building, is really, it really allows you to do things like predictive maintenance, to really improve maintenance cycles, cut costs, to do things like demand-based cleaning and the like. So optimization is a big part in one sense, and the other side of the coin in terms of optimization is really around resources and energy and your carbon footprint, which I touched on a bit earlier. But really there's this whole race towards net zero. Everyone needs to become carbon neutral, and buildings consume a large percentage of the energy that we produce globally. I think the stat is something like 70% in the US is consumed by buildings. So by making buildings smarter and making them more efficient through IoT, you really first of all allow your clients to get a picture of their carbon consumption, so measuring first, and then you allow them to manage and reduce that carbon consumption actively through the solutions, which is another critical piece of the smart buildings puzzle. So those three, I think, are really big drivers as to why smart buildings are important for us. I think you will be left behind if you don't adopt a smart building play, because I think that's where the whole industry is going, that's where the world is going. If you are not differentiating yourselves in terms of customer experience, in terms of your impact on the environment, in terms of your operational costs, you're not going to be able to compete going forward. So for me, a smart building is the normal going forward and a critical part of anyone's portfolio. So for people that have big property portfolios, IoT is a critical aspect, right? Because you really want to try and shave off costs on that bottom line as much as possible. And really how we see that happening with IoT is in retrofitting into those environments. You generally have building management systems on site. You generally have energy meters and water meters on site. We bring all of these things online. We give you a portfolio view of what's happening in that space. And then really we can drive consumption down and reporting at a portfolio level, so that you are really actively tracking savings and making a difference in your entire set of assets. We actually see that as the long-term view when we get into a smart building. It's not about doing one building or a floor in that building. It's really about doing that one and then expanding it out to multiple buildings or sites, that you start seeing a huge sort of exponential effect on the savings and things that you're generating in the building. So it's definitely something for portfolios to consider and have in place going forward. The current challenge that facilities managers find in their day-to-day jobs is a real push, to first utilize existing assets that have been adopted and systems, but secondly also adopt these new technologies which are flooding in from different directions in the market. As a facilities manager, what you definitely get nowadays is a lot of people pushing through very great point solutions into your environment, and it becomes very difficult to select or choose between those things, as well as maintain your current base of software. And over and above that, what we're seeing is the current systems that facilities managers have in place are quite complex in how they require someone to interpret the data that's being shown. So an example of that would be a building management system. Traditionally, there's a lot of data, outputs that need to be translated, and it becomes very time consuming and very difficult to draw insights and to address problems. What we do is, we allay those fears. We make those issues, a non-issue in those environments by centralizing all of those systems into one, allowing the facilities managers to be flexible going forward and not locked into what they choose now, in 2, 3, 4, 5 years, but really, change that up and not be so bogged down by their past decisions, which is critical at the rate that things are changing. But we also cut down the complexity in terms of them making sense of the data that they're getting. So, red and green indicators are very common tools that we use to indicate things, ensuring people that people don't have to interpret data from graphs, but rather get, an output output that has that interpretation done for them already really makes the lives of the facilities manager a lot easier. And those are things that we do on a day-to-day basis, which are really adding value. So I think our technology and the approach and the architecture that we take is critical to these environments going forward. So with the IoT.nxt stack, you can unlock your dependency on OEMs and really let your technology serve your strategy. The challenge that we solve is one view to monitor all of these systems and make our occupant experience next level.